Morning to you. How are you?
That's how you keeping?
Yeah, pretty good. This was exactly what we wanted. There's going to be not in a straight line, but there's going to be signs of progress. And Ireland with the ball and Ireland without the ball look like they're pretty well coached at the moment. What was your takeaway from the two games, not just the Luxembourg game? Because obviously we have to look at these as a piece, and it seems like there are definite patterns emerging. What were you seeing?
Yeah, look, I think we were better in the first one than we were in the second one. Obviously, that said, all's well that ends well in terms of how last night was. I thought we were superbly impressive against Portugal. I really did. We were so brave, Ger. I mean, in terms of their positioning without the ball, to go up against a side as strong as Portugal and literally decide to go man for man. In terms of our marking, like any time the keeper had the ball at his feet, we were gone 7v7 in the attacking half of the field, leaving the three centre halves man for man. It's high risk, but it was working really well. It's the lesser of two evils, I suppose. You can drop off and take the safety first approach and let them have it all day. But Stephen obviously said to the lads, no, look, we're and that surprised me because you look back at our possession stats against Azerbaijan, even when the result was good, and we kind of did let them have it. So I assumed it would be more of the same, but we were incredibly proactive without the ball and forcing them to go along. But to be fair, then the way the bodies flooded back, when we did force Portugal to go along and it was sent into the air, the bodies had flooded back to make sure that players, so they weren't left 3v3 for too long. But the initial setup was very much kind of man for man, which, as I say, is very brave. And then in terms of being in possession of the ball, the constant looking to play out from the back. Seamus Coleman in particular with Josh Cullen out there, the amount of times those two guys found each other to get us out of trouble. And all of a sudden, because we were trying to play out from the back, that means Portugal now have to send bodies into the attacking half, something that teams probably never had to think about doing against us before. And that means, again, there's space on the counter-attack. And we just looked really good then when we got it out of those congested areas and broke forward.
That's the thing as well, Gerard. It's pace. Like we don't have top strikers at all, Shane, do we? But if you are playing a system where they are going to press you high, you have that outball then for the pace that the lads have up front, and that's something I guess he's working on.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think Ida was off the pace last night, but I thought he did really well when he came on. Like if you look at the Portuguese game, we were good without the ball for pretty much the whole game, I thought. In terms of with the ball, it was really the final third of the game. For the first hour, we were only so. That last half an hour was when we really came to life against Portugal, and that kind of coincided with Ida actually coming on and the slight change around.
That's an important point here, because actually what the narrative is, we only got good when they went down to 10 men, but they went down to 10 men because we put them under pressure, and actually Danilo had been booked before that. So you're making the point that the change had actually occurred before that, and the red card and the yellow card actually were a result of our good play.
Definitely, and to be again, Gerard, to be honest, I had thought that he would go with Callum Robinson up top, and I started to weigh up how we'd set up, and the fact that Robinson needs to be allowed to go do his own thing. I don't think he could have been allowed to do that in the slightly more withdrawn role. So I kind of surmised that he would end up playing centre forward for those reasons, and I thought that was the right move. But when Ida came on the field, it changed things massively. There was like 3 balls, I think, in the first 8-9 minutes of him coming on the field where he just did what he does, which is he got his arse out, he held the centre back off with his arse, he controlled the ball in, he set it back to somebody else who was then able to release an Ogbene or whoever else, Callum Robinson or whoever it was coming from deeper. And obviously that's not Robinson's game, so he hadn't been given us that option. So I thought he was... maybe not quite to the same extent as Knight last night, but I thought he was quite the game changer the other night, yeah.
That's really interesting, because it means, from the manager's perspective, that actually in game he has options now all of a sudden. Like, I always thought Ogbene would actually be a better sub, but his 2 starts have been excellent, and the first 10 minutes I thought maybe it was a bit too much for him in the Portugal game, but then he really grew into the match, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, so that changes how you can play, because it means that anytime Matt Doherty wants to ping one forward, he can do that, and all of a sudden, as you talked about, the defence needs to go, do we press up here, or are they going to ping long, intelligent balls over us? And that just puts doubt in teams' minds when they're playing against us.
Look, it is going to be so exciting next year, because it absolutely is going to be a case of horses for courses, without a doubt. I mean, there's people, I heard you chatting there just before I came on, and there are players who at the moment look like they've dropped out of the picture, who I bet you, I'm telling you, like, Stephen doesn't just disregard players like that. Players that are out of the picture will come back into the picture as well. And they'll regain their form with their clubs, and that'll help them push on and challenge for spots again. So depending on who we've got and the different stages we're at next year, you're going to have those players who we've seen do so well over the last few games. Jamie McGrath didn't do as well against Portugal as he had done previously. He'll re-emerge without a doubt. So he will. And the likes of, I do think the likes of your Troy Parrots and your Aaron Conleys will come again. If you've got all these options, that's a really, really good thing. And I think Bene was selected for a very, very specific job the other night. I think if Stephen wrote down his starting 11 for the Luxembourg game before the Portugal game was played, I don't think Bene was in it. I think he was just particularly selected for the game against Portugal because it really, really suited his skill set, suited the job that was needed. He was so good against Portugal that he then made himself undroppable, and I think that's how he ended up in the team for the second one, which is exactly what the young fella should be trying to do. But I just think we're going to have a lot of options depending on what Stephen requires from game to game next season.
Shane's point is a key one there, that this is Stephen Kenny, that these guys that are on the periphery of the team or the squad, Kenny will make sure that they feel loved, that he knows that they're in his thoughts over the next few months. He'll be in constant contact with them, checking how they are. That's kind of him, Shane, isn't it? Like that, he just has this man management style where it's sincere. It's also, he's quite tactical at times. I think referencing Mick McCarthy after the game as one of Ireland's great players was certainly one of his more out there. He was playing tactics there, but in terms of what he does with players, I think, and we spoke about this myself and Ger this morning. It's like a lot of them are just playing for him, and players who weren't playing very well for Ireland before he came in are now playing really well.
Look, lads, if you want to draw, not blank expressions, but if you want to force somebody into a stuttering answer, when you talk to players who've played under Stephen and you say to them, what is he so good at? What is it that makes him so different and makes him so special? They're not able to answer the question. I was trying to plough, when I was at Dundalk, I was trying to plough the players. Naturally enough, you're trying to find out, what did he do on the training ground, or what way did he talk to you, or what did he do? You're just trying to see, can you learn a few things from the way he operated. Players are never able to fluently answer that question. They don't know themselves how he has done what he does, or what it is that makes him that bit different. But they will inevitably circle back to saying, I don't know, he just has a way of making you feel great about yourself. He just has a way of making you feel 10 foot tall, and that's not to say he doesn't have lots of other attributes, but that is definitely the key one. And yeah, those energies to make people feel like that are not just focused on 1 to 11. He will absolutely be trying to have that effect on as many people around the setup as he can.
Oh, and he was talking about John Egan as a Champions League defender. You can see that that's what he's doing. When he answered
totally unprompted.
Well, the question he was asked, that we played the clip earlier on, was him about night, and what instructions was it? Was be brilliant, like be your brilliant self. Like that's the type of thing that gives a 20-year-old going, oh, okay, Ireland manager thinks I'm brilliant. Well, maybe I am brilliant. I want to play you this because there's been a bit of back and forth with the Luxembourg manager. Here he is, Luke Holtz, and his translator. He wasn't happy with the conduct of the Irish management team last night, but he wouldn't say why. Oh, we don't have the clip. Sorry, we'll get into that in a minute. Let's talk about night, because we've been fascinated / obsessed mildly with the number 10 role on this show since Vinnie Perth has been talking to us about it over the last 18 months or so. Is Jason Knight our number 10? Certainly that's the job out of possession, is be our number 10. But in possession too, can he be that player? Yeah,
look, he's another one who can go and challenge for it, that's for sure. I mean, it's hard to believe that a player could have just as much of a positive impact as he had last night. You really couldn't have asked any more from him. And it was interesting to hear Stephen describe the job, because I did think we struggled a little bit more last night in our build-up phase. I thought that front three had just changed their permutation slightly, whereas I would have up until now been calling it a 2 and a 1. I think it was a 1 and a 2 last night with Robinson as the 1 behind Ogbene and Ida as the 2. Now, Callum Robinson's biggest attribute above all else is I just find his movement to be absolutely outstanding, and his ability to go wandering into certain areas to be outstanding. But when he's one of the 2, or even when he's the centre forward, his designated marker, he goes into areas that his designated marker can't follow him into, because he's going from the left-hand side of the field all the way across to the right and vice versa. Last night, as the out-and-out 10, I just thought it allowed their 6 Martins to pretty much lock onto him and kind of man-mark him a little bit more. And I thought that caused us a big problem. Now, based on what Stephen said there, you're to be on the left when we have it and go in and mark Martins when we don't have it. I think there actually was a slight adjustment to the shape when Knight came on as well. So, and I think that really helped as well. So it did, because I don't think now any particular player could go and man mark him. But by God, he flourished in it. I mean, he really did. Look, there's been so much talk, as you say. He's such a high energy player. He's so clever. He's getting praise from, so many kind of top directions. He was excellent. He really was excellent. But he's going to have a fight in his hands, because we've got a lot of strong players in that position, and what he needs now is regular game time that he can really try and go and emerge and push on. Look, I wouldn't be getting overly carried away. It was a short period of time. If you want to get carried away about anybody, Gerard, for me all day long, it's Josh Cullen. I just can't get over how good this player is becoming. I wanted to put my fist through the screen last night at halftime when Liam Brady started saying that he wasn't shown for the ball enough. I thought it was anything but the truth. He has to be a dream teammate for everybody else. If you're a wing back and you're going running down the line and all of a sudden you've got box down the tunnel, you just know when you turn back out, he's going to be there. He's going to be there every single time. He had like 61 passes from 64 attempted last night. I think it was about 20 ahead of the next best in terms of, well, a couple of the centre backs had decent enough numbers, but he is always an option. He uses the ball so well. His movement is so clever. Now, part of that is the setup as well, is really helping him. Like, if you see last night, let's say we go down the left with James McLean and James runs down a dark alley, he'll turn back and Cullen will be there every time. But when he plays it back to Cullen is then switching it across to the other side. But we're in the final third at this stage, and the player he's switching it across to on the other side is Seamus Coleman, who's one of our centre halves, yet he's in the final third, stepping into that space that we've created down the opposite side and showing for the ball. And the exact same the other way around. Matt Doherty, you're stuck down the tunnel, just come back to me. Josh Cullen, I'll receive it, and I'll switch it out the other side to John Egan, who's well positioned in the final third to take the ball forward. So the setup helps him, but I just think his intelligence is. I know we need to get away from talking about the other fella, but like, there's serious similarities between himself and Declan Rice there at the moment. There really is, in the manner that he's playing, and I think he's the one that we need to get so excited about at the moment.
Okay, that's great to hear. And that general sense of everybody beginning to know, not beginning, but us understanding that they understand their roles, that has come at the end of a lot of games and a lot of chopping and changing and all the COVID stuff that we all know about at the start. But it feels like we have a very settled style of play, and we have strength and depth for most of the positions. Like when you're talking there about Coleman, he was playing centre back and played centre back over this period of games. He's been absent because of injuries for various stages, and like, it wouldn't be a significant downgrade if we had Darragh O'Shea or Omobamidele in that back three, and it kind of feels like whatever constellation there is now, maybe with the exception of Cullen, that almost everybody can be replaced by somebody of a fairly similar stature. Maybe Shane Duffy at this point is making himself irreplaceable, but apart from that, you feel like we'll be able to withstand the vagaries of a qualifying campaign because enough players have had enough time and exposure in the system.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. And I think I would actually say even the two that you've named, I think, for all the praise I've just given Josh Cullen, I think Conor Horan would absolutely relish, being told, Josh Cullen's picked up an injury. You've seen what he's been doing for us the last few games. You need to go and do that for us now. You need to be on the ball 60 times in the game. And I think he would absolutely embrace that as well. And Duffy, let's be honest, was absolutely nowhere near his best last night, up until the point that he got the goal. I'd say he would be very, very disappointed in the game that he was having up until the point that he got the goal. So it's not to say that I would say possibly for me it might be Matt Doherty. I think as a right back, I think Seamus Coleman is a very different kind of a right back. I think Matt Doherty is the one who I don't know if we've got a like for like in terms of skill set at the moment. But yeah, all over the field, you feel like you've got a minimum of 2 options for any given position. It's taken a while to get there. I do think COVID is a very, very valid excuse for why it's taken so long to get there. But what we're seeing at the moment is what a lot of us would have felt we were likely to see back when he got the job. It's taken longer to happen, but we've got there. And look, again, that's not to get over carried away, Ger. I'm not saying we're world beaters or anything, far from it, but
Shane will
general
say,
vibe.
4 games, right? 4 games playing against mixed opposition. Really didn't concede that many chances over the 4 games. I was just reflecting on this last night. If you put a team out and you're playing sort of 5 at the back, 3 at the back, whatever you want to call it, but the strength is, the strength of particularly the 3 centre backs and generally the back 6 is so good. And then if you think mentally what that's like as a defender to have Gavin Bazunu behind you, who himself is still only really getting going, you're like, we've an extremely strong bedrock here to get, like, even to eke out 0-0 draws in games that might be tight, like the Portugal game. We have a serious foundation here now, because Bazunu could be like he's going to be the best goalkeeper we've ever had. I think he could be the best player we ever had. But like the understanding there that we go out here, we're not going to give goals away at all willy nilly must be massive for them. Yeah.
Look, I don't know. Have I ever seen a better save than that one last night? That really was incredible.
In any game.
In any game.
That's true. It was unbelievable, Shane. Like
it is right up there as one of the best. Certainly one of the best I have ever seen. I mean, if that's a high profile game or a high profile goalkeeper, that gets shown around the world, time and time again. So it does. It was superb. And he can do that. He's shown consistently now that he can do that. And also, as we've seen, just so comfortable with the ball at his feet, so comfortable. And again, this whole style of play essentially could fall down if you had a goalkeeper who wasn't comfortable with the ball at his feet. But thankfully we seem to have, again, I wouldn't even say Bazunu is irreplaceable. He's been fantastic, but we do seem to have a couple of keepers emerging there. I don't know if you saw Brian Maher's performance for the 21s the other night as well. Again, extremely comfortable with the ball at his feet.
Keep 2 clean sheets against Galway United lately.
True, Johnny. Unfortunately for you. Look, it really is, because that's Bazunu, as well as every time he has the ball in his hands, he immediately runs out towards the edge of the 18-yard box. He's scanning as he's running out to see what options are on, and if there's any sort of a quick release option on, bang, he does it instantly. If there isn't, grand, take a deep breath and relax. So I think he's the catalyst for a lot of the positive stuff that's going on as well. But yeah, just another reason for us to be
briefly, sorry Shane, I know the Ronaldo save went viral and all of that, but that had to be one of those moments as a sport fan in Ireland or as an Irish soccer fan where you're like, holy crap, this guy is just, he's different. He's just, you're witnessing, like, in all the goalkeepers we've seen down the years, this guy is just, he's from another planet, I think.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, when a player breaks into a first team, a goalkeeper in particular, you'll get away with chancing a forward at first team football quite young, a lot easier. But when a goalkeeper breaks into a first team as young as he did at Shamrock Rovers, you do start to look and go, yeah, what's going on here, kind of a thing. All right,
he could be Ireland's goalkeeper for 20 years. Like, he could be Ireland's. He's that right age that actually he could literally play football for the Republic of Ireland for the next 20 years, and we'll be sitting here in 20 years time, hopefully, on whatever format people are maybe in each other's brains going, oh, that Bazunu, we predicted this.
And you know what, Gerald, he's going to have to stay on the top of his game. He is going to have to stay on the top of his game, because how amazing is it for us to have a backup goalkeeper who's at Liverpool and threatening to try and break in there. So it's amazing. But look, he's outstanding, lads. It was go gadget arms stuff, wasn't it? How I still can't really wrap my head around how he pulled off that save, to be honest with you. It was just sensational.
Good stuff, Shane. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Spot on, lads.
That's Shane Keegan giving us his thoughts on the Republic of Ireland scenario. I totally agree that if the group was starting now, says Jared, we'd have a right good chance. We'd all beat Luxembourg and Azerbaijan home and away, and the games between the top three would all be close. Well, we'll see. The Nations League is all of a sudden very interesting to us. And I think the stadium will be full for games, and I think there's a feel-good factor around the team.
Sponsor jar is the big one now. I mean, the FAI, like, they've got to be in a far better bargaining position. I can't get my head around how somebody isn't
Just
taking...
one point on that, right?
Yeah.
The Brady line about, if I was running a business, I'd get all the evidence available. Oh, where's he going to go? The Dublin taxi driver told me, he made the joke about I don't know if you saw this in the Late Late Show on Friday night. I flicked over at the end of something else and was like, oh, I'll watch this. And Brady using the wisdom of the Dublin taxi drivers to
Brady was on the Late Late.
He was, yeah.
Brady's been on TV a lot lately then.
And his point was, he's not going to Man United, is he, Stephen Kenny? A bit cruel. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. If that's where we're getting our analysis from these days, that's great. But if you are running a business, you want stability and certainty, and if you're the sponsor, you want to know who the manager's going to be for the next 2 years. So you frank the contract now, and we stop talking about it, and we move on. And that's exactly what a good business would do. So this is a challenge for the FAI to see if they're well run, or if they're still in a state of flux. And if they're well run, they'll go, "This is our guy. This is our team. That's our stadium." Those away fans, the away fans were singing that they wanted Stephen Kenny, and the away fans always know, because they're the ones who are investing the most time and energy and reading non-stop about what's happening, and they were fully behind him. So get the deal done. Philip Nolan says, delighted for Kenny. First half save from Bazunu was unreal.